The Tuckman model is, without a doubt, one of the best known and one of the very best models for understanding the development of teams. So in this video, I want to extend it to think about team leadership and what we can learn from the Tuckman model of group development that will help us to hone our leadership style as our teams develop. In the forming stage of a group's life cycle, people don't know each other, they want to get on and they want to contribute. They want to make a positive difference and they are a little hesitant to engage socially with their colleagues. Therefore, your role as team leader in this early stage of the group's development has to be to get the team working. You need to focus on giving clear, precise instructions about what each person can do. This will allow your budding team members to get to know each other through doing something important. Each person feels valuable because they can contribute, and people will respect your leadership because you are the one person there who really knows what the team is supposed to be doing and can allocate useful, meaningful work to each member of the team. In Tuckman's second stage, the storming stage, the team has started to get to know one another and therefore they will feel more confident socially and their personalities will start to come out. What you'll see is some of the more assertive members of the team jostling for influence over their colleagues and over you. This can manifest itself in some dysfunctional behaviours. So as well as keeping the team busy and maintaining a stream of clear instructions so that people know what's expected of them, you also need to manage the relationships between yourself and the various team members. You need to make sure that the less confident, less assertive team members can feel secure in the work they are doing and in the relationships they're building. You also need to assert your leadership confidently in the face of some assertive team members wanting to second guess what it is you're doing and how you're going about your business. Indeed, there may be one or two team members who feel that they ought to be in charge rather than you, because being the team leader doesn't necessarily mean that you are naturally the most assertive personality. So in the storming phase, you need to balance the inputs you make as a team leader between the relationship side of the team's concerns and its task side. You need to be clear and explicit about what you're expecting people to do, but you also need to support the team in forming good relationships. In the norming stage, people are starting to know what to do and how to do their job. So you need to reduce the amount of instruction that you're giving them. Because if you tell me what to do and I already know what to do, then I either feel you don't have confidence in me, or you don't know what I'm doing, or you're just a bit of a busybody and a bossy person. None of those characteristics are ones that we associate with good leadership. Once people start to know what it is that they're expected to do and how to do it, then start to let them get on with their job. However, in focusing on their job, people are starting to pull away from the natural social relationship forming. So your role in the norming stage is very much one about building useful relationships among colleagues. If there's one person in the team who is struggling with something, then introduce them to somebody else in the team who may be able to help because they have more expertise. And if somebody is finding that there is too much work for them to do, then perhaps invite a colleague over and ask them to help out. By creating these social bonds, you are setting up the basis for a team who know one another and can start to collaborate and care for one another. the characteristics that we see in a performing stage team. And in the performing stage, because people do know one another, they know how each other person in the team reacts, they've started to understand their personalities, their strengths, their weaknesses, and each member of the team knows what their job is and has a good appreciation for the important tasks that you set the team as a whole, they can also get on with their work efficiently. So they don't need you to be busy with telling them what to do. And they don't need you to be busy helping to maintain relationships and communication. In fact, what they do need of you is a light touch on the rudder, giving them a gentle steer here and a gentle steer there, but not interfering and getting in the way of them doing their work. Your leadership role during the performing stage of the Tuckman group life cycle is very much a subtle one. Of course, as the team transforms, when new members join, when people leave, when there are new tasks to do, you need to re-exert your leadership. You need to diagnose the extent to which you need to input instruction and clarity, and the extent to which you need to assert some measure of relationship building interventions. And of course, when it comes time for the team to go its separate ways and we reach the adjourning or mourning stage of the Tuckman life cycle, you need to lead that process. You need to be very clear about building an opportunity for the team to celebrate what it's achieved and its time together, and to recognize what it is that they'll be missing as they go their separate ways. It's important to have those rituals, and you as a leader are there to lead them. So the Tuckman group life cycle model is a fantastic way, not just of understanding how groups evolve and predicting what will happen as they move from a group to a team, but it is also a brilliant way to assess the leadership style that you can best apply to get the very best from your team as their leader. In an earlier video, I looked at how we can use the Tuckman life cycle to understand the different ways that you can effectively lead a team at the different stages of your team's evolution. In this video, I want to zoom into the performing stage and to look in some more detail at the style of leadership which you need to offer your team to get the best from them when they are performing well. In the performing stage, your team doesn't need much guidance because they know their roles, they know what you expect of them, and they know how to deliver. And they don't need much supportive leadership either, because they know one another and can take care of their own relationships. They can resolve their own small conflicts and they can help one another out when they need it. So what is your role? It's a very subtle role, because to an external observer, a team in the performing stage doesn't have an obvious leader. Different members of the team will step forward and take a leadership role as the team's agenda changes to an area of their own expertise or passion. And then when the team's task moves on to something else, other people will step forward and they will step back. Your role is a subtle one, and it is one very much in the background. Fundamentally, your role is to allow and to help your team to succeed at the tasks you have set them. And usually that requires a light touch. The first element of your leadership role has to be to maintain the environment in which your team can thrive. If we think back to Hertzberg's two-factor model of motivation, there are things that motivate us, get excited, and there are things that if we don't have them, leave us feeling demotivated. We need the materials, the equipment, the knowledge, the tools to do our job. If we don't have them, we are demotivated. And therefore, a large part of your role as leader in the performing stage is to make sure your team has the things it needs to do its job. It is one of supply. As a result, you need to be thinking about the people that the team need to be able to access to do their job, the information they need, the working conditions which will allow them to thrive. Anything you can do to build a pleasant and productive working environment, that's your job. And once you've done that, what's really going to get in the way is the kind of nonsense that a lot of organisations throw at us just because they employ us. So the next part of your role is to protect your team from all of those distractions. It's kind of like thinking of your role as team leader as one of providing and protecting. And the protecting thing means taking upon yourself many of the tasks that seem the most menial. If you can do those administrative tasks, if you can interpret those long, complicated emails and make them simple, then you are relieving your team members of the job of doing them for themselves. You are therefore making the team more efficient by doing it once for everyone, and you're taking away those distractions so they can get on with their job. There are, of course, some relationship tasks that you do need to take upon yourself. You need to arbitrate in disputes. If the conflict escalates to the level where the individuals cannot handle it themselves, or cannot handle it effectively or efficiently enough to clear it out the way so they can get on with their job, that's when you need to step in. If an important decision is needed and the team members don't feel confident to make it for themselves, then you need to step in and either make the decision or facilitate the process to help them make it for themselves. Your next role is to give people the opportunity to learn, to develop, to grow, and to excel. In allocating work, you exert leadership, firstly by choosing who does what, but secondly, by giving people the opportunities that they crave, the opportunities that are best for them and for their career, as well as for the organisation and what it is you are trying to do. A large part of your role as leader is nurturing the talent that will take over your role in the future or go elsewhere and take great roles, so that you can be seen to be someone who brings people forward and therefore are eminently promotable yourself. Remember, nobody's going to promote you if you are not able to bring people up to replace you. And finally, I think an important part of your leadership role is motivating your team. When the team is performing well, they will be largely self-motivating, but you need to maintain that, and the best way you can do that is again by giving people autonomy to do the things that they are good at, the ability to learn and grow and excel at those things, and crucially, recognition for what it is they've achieved and celebration of their successes. As a team leader during the performing stage, you will have lots of successes to celebrate, and if you do it right, then you will keep the team in the performing stage and therefore be discharging your leadership role perfectly. Because remember, in the performing stage, your role as a leader is to keep people performing at their peak. A fantastic model for understanding your roles as a team leader is that of John Adair, a British academic and military historian. And his model is most often known as the 3 circles model. But its proper name is action-centered leadership. John Adair represents his action-centered leadership model as 3 overlapping circles. And in the first of them, he places the task that the team needs to achieve. Your first responsibility as a leader is to make sure your team is equipped to achieve its task. This means spelling out very clearly what the goal of the task is, setting a vision and a mission for the team, if you like, but also creating an effective plan that they can work to. Indeed, the best way that a leader can create a plan for their team is to give the team the responsibility to create the plan for themselves, because more heads contain more brains. And if the team members create their own plan, then their level of commitment to that plan will be so much the higher. If you, the leader, give them a plan and tell them that's what to do, you're setting up their excuse that we never believed in the plan anyway. When you do set them the task of creating the plan, there is one absolutely vital thing that you must include in the plan, which is to make sure that everybody in the team will know what their own individual responsibilities are. And I would add a second crucial element, which is to build in milestones. Because once the team achieves those milestones, it has a reason to celebrate, and celebrating milestones is massively motivating to the team. In the second of Adair's 3 circles, I am going to place building and maintaining the team. A big part of your leadership responsibility is to give people a real sense of team spirit. They need to know one another, share a commitment for the goal, and be willing to collaborate with one another effectively. So you need to set up the conditions to build strong working relationships, and then harness those relationships to encourage the team to set its own ground rules and ways of behaving. You need to build a team culture that works for the individuals and is fit for the task at hand. Once you have that shared purpose and culture, then the team can take a pride in its achievements. And a good way to cement that is to build team rituals, regular things that the team does together, whether they are clearly work-based rituals like we meet every Monday morning at 10 o'clock, to highly social rituals like we go out every Friday evening for a chat and maybe a drink or a bite to eat. In between are those workplace social interactions which are so powerful in cementing a sense of identity for your team, like perhaps sharing cakes when someone has a birthday, or something simple like that. In the third of Adair's 3 circles is developing the individual. The more you can get to know each individual and cherish them for what they can achieve and their skills and expertise and passions, then the better it will be for you and for the team, as well as for that individual. Because a huge part of your leadership role is developing each person to bring out their full potential. Not just because it will benefit the team and the task at hand, but because it is your responsibility to grow the people who work with you. Equally, it is also your responsibility to meet their needs, the legitimate needs they have, both physical and emotional and psychological, so that they can get on with their job. You need to provide them with the materials they need, the knowledge that they need, and the support and guidance that they need. You also need to recognize and celebrate their achievements so that they can feel good about the work they do. We all thrive when the people we respect recognize what it is we're doing. And finally, everybody needs to feel that they are treated fairly. An absolutely crucial part of your leadership role is that of arbiter. You need to make sure that you treat everyone in your team with equity. That means sometimes taking the tough decision because it is the right decision. People will put up with a lot if they feel they are treated fairly. But the moment one person thinks that somebody else is doing better than they are, then your team will start to disintegrate. And importantly, your team will lose its trust for you. I've been using these 3 elements of John Adair's action-centered leadership for many, many years. But I have also been using a 4th circle, which I am going to wrap around Adair's 3 circles, because I think a 4th vital component of your leadership role is communication. Now, I am not saying that Adair was unaware of the importance of communication. Of course he was. But he wrapped it into each of the 3 elements. I am bringing it out to make it more explicit. It is a crucial part of your role to make sure that the team communicates among themselves. This is not just about you communicating with your team members and your team members communicating with you. It's about creating an environment where your team understands the importance of communication and develops routines and ways to communicate which are highly effective. And critically, do not rely upon you. If all communication goes through you as the team leader, then what happens when you're not there? Communication fails. Communication needs to be a respectful network. And by respectful, what I mean is that each individual needs to know that their job is not to communicate everything to everyone and so flood the whole team with useless information. Each of us within the team needs to feel that we know or have a good idea who will need a certain piece of information, who will value access to it, and who really won't want to know. And we will make intelligent judgments about how to use the communication tools available to us to achieve those aims. And additionally, each team member will use those communication tools diligently and appropriately. A good team will discuss regularly how it's communicating and where the shortfalls are. They will celebrate the successes in their communication and find new procedures, new processes, new habits to make up for the weaknesses. John Adair gives us a brilliant model, action-centered leadership for understanding your role as a team leader. His 3 circles encompass the task at hand, the team itself, and the individual. And I have wrapped around them the crucial aspect of communication. In a hugely influential article in a 1958 edition of the Harvard Business Review, Robert Tannenbaum and Warren Schmidt set out what they called a continuum of leadership behaviours. And that continuum of behaviours gives us 7 options along a continuum from a highly directive to a highly supportive style of leadership that you can take with your team. So in this video, I want to outline Tannenbaum and Schmidt's leadership continuum as it applies to team leadership. Tannenbaum and Schmidt considered the example of a team considering a problem that it needs to resolve and looked at 7 different ways in which you as a team leader can handle that situation to illustrate the kind of range of options you have available to you. And they also pointed out that the choices you make have to depend on a number of things. They have to depend upon you, who you are, and the way you think about the situation. They clearly depend upon the situation itself. And in addition, they depend upon the team and your assessment of the team. And they gave these 7 examples, which I'll share with you now. The first is the most authoritarian style of leadership. The leader makes a decision about how to solve the problem and announces it to the team and requires them to enact their solution. In the second level, the manager still makes their decision and still expects them to comply with it, but they take a bit of time to sell the solution to the team. Here, as a team leader, you care that your team agree that it is an appropriate solution, though you don't require them to believe that it is the right solution. At the next level, as a leader, you will present a solution to your team, but invite questions and be prepared to review your decision before requiring them to enact it. In the middle of our range, at the fourth level, now you as a leader are not only prepared to answer questions about your decision and possibly review it, you are now committed to changing your decision should the team find flaws in it and suggest better ways. Now you are really engaging your team, having made your tentative first decision, in polishing it up and getting it right. Having consulted your team on your decision in the fourth stage, in the fifth stage, you consult your team to get suggestions before you make a decision. Now, some of the responsibility for problem solving falls upon your team, and you are open to their influence. And at the sixth level, you make it possible for the team to make its own decisions. You set constraints, you set rules, you set boundaries, you may even facilitate the process, but you allow the team to find its own solution and to make its own decision. You may or may not choose to retain a veto over it, although almost certainly you would, because it is only at the seventh level that the team leader delegates all responsibility for resolving a problem and forming a decision and deciding how to act to their team. And the only constraints that you apply at this seventh level are those that are fundamental to the organisation, over which you have no control. Now the team is in charge, not you. Your leadership style is purely facilitative. Choosing which style to use is partly down to you, what Tannenbaum and Schmidt called the forces in the leader or the manager. Your values, your confidence in yourself, and your confidence in the team and the situation. They're about the way you like to manage and lead, and about how secure you feel in your own position. You also need to think about the forces in your team members, their styles, their preferences, their need for independence, their confidence in problem solving, their confidence in doing the task that you have set them. How much knowledge do they have? How much experience do they have? What are their expectations? And how much trust do they have in themselves and in you? And finally, there's the forces in the situation. What is the problem? What is the challenge? What is the task that you're setting your team, and how important is it, and what are the consequences of failure? What is the culture of the organisation within which the task sits, and the priorities and the time pressure? You might also like to think about the track record of your team and yourself and your experience in solving problems like this and tackling tasks of this kind. When you've thought through yourself, your organisation, your team, then you select the right level of delegation of the problem, of the task to your team. As a team leader, you can either delegate it all to them or nothing. But you can also delegate along that spectrum, along Tannenbaum and Schmidt's leadership continuum. Daniel Goleman is best known for popularising the idea of emotional intelligence and the tools that go with it. But in his book, The New Leaders, which he co-wrote with Richard Boyatzis and Annie McKee, he also gives us some valuable insights into team leadership. In The New Leaders, Goleman, Boyatzis and McKee set out 6 leadership styles, all of which can be very useful to us as team leaders. The first of these leadership styles is the visionary style. This tends to be authoritative, but also inspirational. It moves your team towards a shared goal. To bring off the visionary style of leadership, you need a lot of confidence. You also need a clear idea of the direction in which you want to take your team. The visionary style serves your team's need for a clear purpose and a clear goal, and therefore it is ideal when the team needs a new start. Indeed, it's a great leadership style at the early stages of a team engaging with a new task. It is best characterized with the phrase, "Come with me, I know where we're going." The visionary style, unless overused, has a positive impact upon the team, but it does need to be used with real empathy and understanding for the team and its needs, and of course requires you to be confident in your understanding of where you want to take the team. The second team leadership style that we've got is coaching, and this is ideal when you want your team members to perform well in their task, both in the near term and for the long term. The coaching style is great for developing skills and commitment. You'll use the coaching style when you want to enhance the capabilities of your team members, and in particular in the service of getting the immediate task done, but also with an eye to the individual's long-term careers. As a result, the coaching style has a highly positive impact on the team, and we deliver it best when we have empathy for individuals' needs and a commitment and passion to listen to them and to help them and to give up your time. The affiliative team leadership style is one that focuses on the relationships among team members and creating a sense of harmony within your team. It's a people-first leadership style, which is great for healing team problems. If you've got relationship problems within the team, or if the team isn't performing well as a whole, then creating that sense of we're all working together and we're collaborating is really important. Therefore, when your team needs more trust, better connections, and a sense of a shared place to call home in the work context, then the affiliative style of team leadership is again a very positive style. And again, you need a lot of empathy to do it well, but you also need good communication skills and the courage to take chances. The democratic leadership style asks people what they think. It values individuals' opinions and forges consensus among the team. As a leader, your role as a democratic team leader is to facilitate the team making its own choices. If people within your team feel a deep need to participate, to get involved, to be listened to, and to be treated fairly and equally, then the democratic team leadership style comes into its own, and again it can have a hugely positive impact upon your team. It's also good when you need ideas, because the team is where you go for the ideas. So therefore, to harness those ideas, you need good communication skills and to create a climate of respect so people feel able to share their ideas, and that sense of equality really does pervade the team. A pace-setting leadership style is hard to do really well, and if you don't do it really well, it can have a negative impact upon the team, because in the pace-setting leadership style, you set very high standards for the team, and often you aim to role model those standards yourself. However, by setting a good and demanding standard for your team, it can feel sometimes to them that you are hectoring, even bullying them, perhaps even saying that you're better than them or they are not good enough, and that's the source of the potential adversive atmosphere that you can create. As a result, only use this when the team feels a strong need for achievement, and there are tough goals to achieve, and it is important that you achieve them. To do this well, you need to be able to balance, on the one hand, your drive and your initiative and your conscientiousness, with, on the other hand, an empathy and a recognition for how your team members will respond to being pushed by the pace-setting team leadership style. If the pace-setting style is all about do as I do, the commanding leadership style is all about do as I say. This team leadership style is all about clear direction that demands immediate compliance. Do as I tell you to do. Consequently, it is only really appropriate in times of crisis where you don't have time and arguably you don't need as much to consider people's emotional needs and their self-respect. You need to get something done, and you need to get it done now, and you need to get it done right. I will tell you what to do and how to do it. However, if these needs for confidence and certainty in times of crisis aren't there, not surprisingly, the commanding leadership style can have a hugely adverse impact on team productivity and team morale. Do not use the commanding style except in extremis. However, when you do need to use it, do so with self-confidence, with good knowledge of what is right, but also self-control. In these 6 leadership styles, Goleman, Boyatzis and McKee give us a great resource for team leaders. It gives us a way of thinking about 6 ways that we can lead our team, and in doing so gives us the opportunity to inject variety into our leadership style day to day, to flex the way we behave with our team to get the best out of them in any situation. Please do give a thumbs up if you like this video. There's loads more great management courses content to come, so please do subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of it. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, keep learning.